Morning, Dan and Amy. So Trump has a lot of ground to cover with the release of the Podesta emails that provide opportunity for the Trump campaign, as well as the accusations by multiple women of Trump's inappropriate, unwanted touching, which provide challenges for the Trump campaign. And he's got a lot of ground to make up, particularly among female voters, particularly among college-educated female voters. And we're going to talk to Trump surrogate Steve Cortes in just a moment. But let's get to Bob and Lyle first, because this is a question we've been asking all morning. How do you suggest, here's the landscape. He's down 33 among women. And that is...
He's not going to win with that.
You can't win. He's got to reduce that deficit. And so what would you suggest Trump do in light of the stories in the New York Times and elsewhere today, these women making allegations, and generally to make the case to female voters that Donald Trump is not the creepster that he has been characterized to be by the media over the last several days? Bob and Lyle, you're on Chicago's Morning Answer.
Yeah, hi. Thanks for having me on. I've been on for a while. Yes, he has to come and be the reformer for the women's causes. And he really needs to set up a program where he can either donate or have people in charge of about 7 different major issues that have affect women. And I think if he does that and he apologizes again for his past, and that he is going to reform the way that women are treated and everything else in the United States, wages, and that he's going to promise to have his cabinet and all those that are involved in his political realm to have an equality, because obviously, I mean, America's made up of both men and women, and he needs to get their votes. So he needs to do this in order to get the female vote.
All right. Thanks for the call, Bob.
I think maybe he should admit that he's a womanizer and go to a 12-step program. He's an addiction to women.
That's a good time for a 12-step. This is a good time for a 12-step program, the last 30 days of the campaign. Interesting. We'll take more calls on this 312-642-5600, turnkey.pro answer line. What Donald Trump should do to address this issue and the larger structural problem he has in terms of the deficit among female voters. But let's go to a professional in the space first. He's Steve Cortes. He's a member of Donald Trump's Hispanic Advisory Council and a Trump campaign surrogate. Steve, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
You bet. Thanks for having me. Good morning, Dan and Amy.
So address the question. What should Trump do given the 33-point deficit he faces that he has got to shave down in order to be elected president?
Well, I think 2 things. One is we need to talk about how he has treated women professionally in the Trump organization and in the Trump campaign. I think we need to really highlight, for example, Kellyanne Conway, who's our campaign manager, who's an incredibly strong, incredibly intelligent, and charming woman, and that he empowers women like Kellyanne Conway, like his daughter, like many executives in his organization. So rather than salacious, unfounded accusations, let's focus on the knowable track record of Donald Trump and what he's done for women professionally. And then I think, secondly, we need to, and this is more important in my view, we need to talk to the issues that I think really concern women today, and I think it's primarily economic growth. Many women are working extremely hard, many of them in 2-income households, and despite 2 incomes, they still can't keep up. Average American hasn't had a pay increase since the year 2000. So women are struggling, like men, women are struggling to pay their bills, to afford child care. We have answers on child care, something Republicans have really never addressed before in any serious way. So serious policy proposals there, and a way to get out of this economic malaise we're in, where we're dealing with, at best, it seems 1% growth. America's just too great a country to accept that kind of economic mediocrity, and I think it's been perhaps even more punishing to a lot of working moms than it is necessarily to men. So I think if we speak to that and offer an optimistic, forward-looking growth plan of lower taxes, lower regulation, of child care tax credits, I believe we can then convince some of those unconvinced women that we have their best interests at heart and that we have a strategy for growth and security going forward.
And in addition to that, if Trump would get a public vasectomy, that would probably help.
Yeah, no comment.
I don't even want to go there. But how bad do you think this is going to get? I mean, we had 6 women so far come forward. Do you have any? I mean, did you see this coming by any chance? As a Trump surrogate?
No, I certainly did not. I mean, But I can't say I'm surprised by the New York Times and mainstream media that they're going to pull these kinds of stunts this late in the game. I think that I think the mainstream media is shocked that Hillary Clinton hasn't already put this election away, and the polls show us that she certainly has not. After Trump's very strong showing in the debate on Sunday night, the polls have tightened dramatically, and some of them, like Rasmussen today, even show Trump in the lead. So this is still very much a horse race, and I think that scares the mainstream media to death. I was in New York just the last 2 days doing a lot of media hits, and I have to tell you, in the cable newsrooms of New York City, they are apoplectic at the thought that Donald Trump is still viable in this election. So I don't doubt any dirty tactics, but to pull out unsubstantiated allegations from 30 years ago, to go down that road, I don't want to go down it on the Bill Clinton and Hillary Clinton side because I just think it's unworthy of a presidential race. They've chosen to go down it with just full abandon. I want to talk about growth and security, and I think if we talk those macro issues, most Americans will agree, and that's not my opinion. Polling shows this: 70% of Americans think we're headed in the wrong direction. We are less prosperous and less safe than we should be, and if we focus on those macro issues, I think Americans will realize that the status quo is not okay, and that Hillary Clinton is the candidate of the status quo, that she is ethically unfit to be commander-in-chief, and I think they'll come around into our forward-looking vision of an outsider, Donald Trump, who's ready to really shake up, not tinker on the edges, but really dismantle the Washington establishment.
All right, so we've talked about the challenges facing Donald Trump this week. The opportunity has been presented by WikiLeaks' release of thousands of John Podesta emails, which show coordination between the Clinton campaign and the State Department, the Justice Department, unprofessional, inappropriate, perhaps illegal, in addition to communications between John Podesta and surrogates that amount to Catholic bigotry. What's your reaction to those emails and their utility the last 4 weeks?
Right, and I'm certainly hopeful. I think it's a treasure trove for us. I really do. The only problem is there's almost too much treasure. It's hard to know where you should focus. I would like to focus on the Catholic issue, and it's interesting, by the way, though, the way, and I have to hand it, I guess, to the New York Times and to the mainstream media to some degree. Today, I was scheduled to do a lot of television talking about this Catholic bigotry issue, and those all got canceled. Why? Because now they want to talk about this New York Times story instead. But I do think it's important, and I think Catholics and all Americans, but particularly people of faith, need to know just how condescendingly these people view us. And these emails have unveiled their heart. And, Donald Trump in the debate said there's a lot of hate in her heart. He took a lot of grief for that statement, but I think it's true. She calls us deplorable. And the basket, by the way, of deplorables is going to have to get a heck of a lot bigger because her staff, and these are top staffers, these are not junior people, chairman of her campaign, head spokesman for her campaign, paid, highly ranked staffers, in these emails told us that they think 70 million American Catholics belong in that basket of deplorables. They said that we subscribe to a religion that is a, quote, dictatorship of the Middle Ages. They made plans to try to infiltrate the Catholic Church. They denigrated people who raise their children in the Catholic faith. They said they do so for political reasons because it's the only acceptable way to be a conservative Christian in their rich social circle. So just demeaning, bigoted talk that I thought was buried before I was born. I thought that stuff was buried when JFK became president in the 1960s, but it seems it has not been buried. And their arrogance and their condescension, and by the way, too, just as an aside, as a Catholic, the idea that they truly believe that a few political operatives believe that they can infiltrate and change our 2,000-year-old faith, I mean, it's really despicable. She needs to fire these people. She needs to repudiate their statements, or else I don't want to hear one word from her about bigotry or equality. Enough lecturing us when within your own house you have anti-Catholic bigots, and we know it now. We've seen it in writing.
All right. He is Steve Cortes, a member of Trump's Hispanic Advisory Council and a Trump campaign surrogate. Steve, thanks as always for being with us. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
And he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
You've made the switch.